The second stage is the call to adventure. The hero's adventure begins when he receives the call to action, such as a direct threat to his safety, his family, his way of life, or to the peace of the community in which he lives. It may not be as dramatic as a gunshot, but simply a phone call or a conversation. But whatever the call is and however it manifests itself, it ultimately disrupts the comfort of the hero's ordinary world and presents a challenge or a quest that must be undertaken. When did the call to adventure come for you, and what was it?
Well, it came, I'm not fucking giggling right now because of how much this applies and pertains to my life. Definitively, without question, it came at the end of my college football career. I had played football since I was 10 years old. I loved being an athlete. I loved the camaraderie of team sports. And it's all I knew. It's all I wanted to do. It's the reason I went to college. I didn't give a shit about learning new things. And I enjoyed communication and sociology and the things that I learned at ASU just to stay eligible. Mm-hmm. But that was it. And so when it ended...
what position did you play?
Defensive end and defensive tackle. And I was a lot bigger then. Like 268 was as big as I got. I'm about 216 right now. Nice and svelte.
Yeah.
But
you're still pretty solid customer, so whoever used to get hit by you must have been in pain.
It was a good time. It was a great time. When it ended, and I knew I sat the bench at ASU. I didn't get a lot of playing time. There was no hopes of going pro. I knew guys that had started every game all 4 years and didn't go pro. It's a big fucking jump from high school to college, and an even bigger jump from D1 to pro.
Yeah.
So knowing that, and not really seeing anything else on the wall athletically, this is long before I thought about becoming a fighter, I got really depressed. And I looked around, a lot of the classes I had taken weren't fun anymore. It was now just shit that I needed to do to finish off my degree, and I just thought, fuck it. What am I going to get a degree for? So I can get a job in sales like both my parents. Both my parents worked on 100% commission. Mm-hmm. That is a fucking high stress way to live.
It is, yeah.
Because no one has consistent pay coming in.
Right.
And I didn't want that for myself. And it really looked like my degree in basket weaving was going to lead to that. And I'm not shitting on anyone in sales. It can be something that's very fulfilling, and very, if you're a driven person and you like that chase and that fire, that's a great thing. But I'm a fiery fucking person. I mean, I'll bet it would burn me alive. Yeah. So I saw the writing on the wall of what it meant to finish college and go into a job like that. I also at the time had partied a lot. Arizona State was the #1 party school in the nation. Partying is a slang term used for cocaine and various other drugs. So, at that time in my life, I was putting things in my body that were having a direct response on my mood, my emotional state, lack of sleep, you name it, all contributed to, or in at the same time with a lack of drive, a lack of purpose, a lack of meaning, mm-hmm. and really seeing a future that I didn't want for myself. Became extremely depressed, and it even came to the point where I attempted suicide.
Really? I didn't know that. And I was going to say, you realize what you're describing right now is the situation for a massive amount of the males in our culture right now. It really is.
Yeah.
So when you attempted suicide, what was the justification inside of yourself? Well,
I had kind of hit rock bottom with the roller coaster of drugs, seeking pleasure in all the wrong places. I had a girlfriend at the time that if I was myself in front of, and it's kind of and I shouldn't say myself, one angle of myself is to be loud and funny and obnoxious, and it didn't resonate with her at all. And I just felt like I'm showing a piece of me here, and she doesn't love that piece of me. Mm-hmm. So will that mean, will anybody ever love me for who I am? And I think that was the deeper thing, was realizing, like, will I ever be loved?
I love you.
I got lots of love right now, brother. But At that time, I didn't feel it. So I took every pill that I had, Vicodin, Xanax, Valium, down the mall, drove to the top of parking lot 7 at ASU. It's about, I don't know how tall it is. It's about 7 stories up, 7 layers. Got to the top, stripped down naked, and stood on the ledge to jump. And I wasn't a religious person. I had been to church as a kid, but a lot didn't resonate with me, as we've discussed many times. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, I just felt a wash come over me of warm, and it felt like pure love coming through. And I heard, not yet. That was it. Then I heard, hey, what are you doing up there? Security guard spotted me going up late at night, thought it was a little wonky, and he talked me down. And
your guardian angel dressed as a security guard?
Yep. And I snapped out of it 48 hours later in what my mom calls the loony bin. It was
all the drugs must have come on and just made a mess of you.
Yeah, I had, apparently I was not nice to the male nurse either, so I wasn't getting great treatment in there.
No.
But, you know, coming out of that, I spent a week in the hospital with other people who had some pretty serious mental illness, you know, and a lot of them were looking at me like, I'm fucking 25 years old, I'm in shape, look handsome, and at least from their opinion, and they were confused. They were like, my family had flown out from California to Arizona to be with me. You know, they're like, your fucking whole family's here. Mm-hmm. You're in college, you're an athlete. What the fuck are you depressed for?
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that taught me right then. I understood in that moment, it doesn't matter what the circumstance is. It is perspective.
It is perspective.
It is perspective. It is relative, right? Yeah. So if it matters to me, then it matters. It might not matter to someone else, but you know, people in different circumstances might look at my life and be like, fuck, you should have gratitude. Yeah. And they're right to a degree, but it is how you view it. And at that point in time, I needed something else. It was tough. But coming out of that, I realized like, maybe I shouldn't be putting this shit in my body. Maybe it is having an effect on me. Mm-hmm. And I went to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And I was already averse to the psychiatrist because their job is to give you drugs. Mm-hmm. And the psychologist I've been to therapy since I was 7 years old, so I was kind of into it. I was like, all right, that's cool. And the psychologist really didn't tell me shit. He didn't tell me out at all. He had similar, you know, like, what are you doing here kind of attitude. The psychiatrist, I told him I don't want any drugs. I tried lithium, I tried this other shit. I feel like a fucking mute. I don't want any drugs at all. And he said, why don't you try taking fish oil?
That's pretty cool.
He gave me fucking 6 studies that I think were out of Europe that showed how it affects the brain and cognitive performance and mood. And so I started taking fish oil, and that was really where I got into a deeper dive of there's a direct correlation between what I put in my body and how I feel, and really being mindful of that.
That's amazing. Now, when you said you were seeing counselors from 7 years of age, what were you seeing the counselors for?
Fighting, getting into trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, getting sent to the principal's office constantly. You know, every week I was in the principal's office. So
yeah, I have some experience with suicide. By the way, my brother committed suicide when he was 34, and I was 34. Maybe he was 34 and I was 35. But it's a very, very painful thing when someone in your family commits suicide. And there's been other deaths in the family, so I've walked down these paths myself, and you know, I'm sure glad you didn't jump, because I wouldn't get nearly as many hugs and kisses from a man, and it's really special when you can, don't you find it special when you can get love from a man that has no strings attached to it, has nothing to do with being sexually, you know, out of the box. It's just respect for a warrior.
Yeah.
That's what you give me.
Yeah, brother. I got all the respect in the world for you.
Thank you. Our next stage is the refusal of the call. Although the hero may be eager to accept the quest, at this stage he will have fears that need overcoming, second thoughts, or even deep personal doubts as to whether or not he is up to the challenge. When this happens, the hero refuses the call, and this may result in suffering somehow. The problem he faces may seem too much to handle, and the comfort of home may be more attractive than the perilous road ahead. This would also be our own response. This would also be our own response, and once again this helps us bound further with the reluctant hero. So we never really did get clear what the call was for you that ultimately took you into the hero's journey, where you had to deal with the realities of the challenges of the hero's journey. So what was the call to adventure that ultimately took you beyond the depressive, suicidal, football player, drug doing, party doing, that somehow cultivated a sense of meaning and purpose that drove you to become against the odds? What was that call?
Fighting, without a doubt. And I didn't know it yet. That's why I hadn't brought it up yet. I didn't know it at that point.
And was there a refusal at any point?
Yes, so after the attempted suicide, there was probably, I want to say 6 months to a year before I actually made my way into an MMA gym. And I pussyfooted around the idea, talked about it, and weighed the pros and cons, and well, I fought a lot growing up, but it's different when you're in the heat of moment and survival versus somebody who's a fucking trained killer who's training for you specifically, and it's in front of a bunch of people, and it's for fucking peanuts for money.
Yeah. Whose idea was that?
Well,
for you to become a fighter?
I wanted to train just for the sake that I weightlifting and fucking running on a treadmill, I felt like I was a rat on the wheel.
Yeah.
It wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't training with 100 guys with music blasting and a fucking Division I strength coach who's now the head strength coach for the Carolina Panthers football team. Like, that didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So I wanted something where I'd have a deeper connection. I wanted the human interaction, mm-hmm. and martial arts was going to give me that. So about 3 months into training in a gym, the guy who owned the gym also ran a small local promotion in Arizona, Rage in the Cage, and he was like, look, dude, you're big, you're good looking, you should fight, you know, I mean, if you don't like it, you don't ever have to do it again. If you do like it, you know, you keep going. And I won my first 2 fights in under 30 seconds and was absolutely hooked.
Uh-oh.
All right,
I got the beat.
Yeah, let's start training a little bit more then. And it's amazing to tell this story, because at that point I had a strength coach who, you know, he's got a thick New York accent. He's like, you fought a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? He goes, you fought a lot. And I was like, I fart a lot? That's a fucking weird thing to say to a man. And he's like, no, I'm serious, you got an intolerance. And I was like, I got an intolerance to what? And he's like, it's probably wheat. And so he fucking introduced me to you. We watched Flatten Your Abs Forever on VHS.
Wow. And so I didn't realize this was part of your fighting training.
This came into the fight game and changed the way I viewed everything about what I put in my body, and also really planted the seed for me to want to learn. Period.
So I actually contributed to your fighting career.
You contributed my whole life, brother.
Oh my God, no wonder we kiss each other.
So, you know,
how long ago was that?
Fuck, this was 2006.
Okay, yeah.
So I read How to Eat, Move, Me Healthy. I do all the questionnaires, and I fucking, of course, come out on the other side of that thing like, man, I got this, and this. I got candida, I got fucking gluten intolerance, and started cleaning stuff up. And from that point on, you know, we talked about this on the podcast we just did for Human Optimization Hour, was that what Waldorf does for kids is it teaches them to love to learn.
Yes.
Right? So reading that book taught me, oh, this has a huge impact on how I feel, how I recover, fucking all of it, not just performance, which is really what I was geared towards, but life in general.
Yes.
And that made me want to learn more.